Welcome to the Dreamit Dose. Many early stage startups are focused on running trials, proofs of concept, and pilots to help grow their pipeline. Frequently, they don't get the results they're hoping for. There are several critical issues you need to get right for these to be worth both your time and effort. Luckily, there's a framework for this. Let's dive in. Dreamit Ventures has been investing in great early stage startups for over a decade. The Dreamit Dose allows us to share best practices to help even more founders. Tell us about your great startup using the links below. Let's start by making sure we're on the same page regarding terminology. First up and least formal, let's talk about trials. Trials are usually when a customer implements your product in their environment with or without your assistance. This provides them with hands-on experience and helps them validate features, functionality, and benefits. Next in formality would be a proof of concept or POC. So it's a proof of concept, right? So what makes a POC different from a trial is adding a hypothesis. This means that before starting a POC, you should clearly define and agree to what you're trying to prove. Now let's go to the most formal of the three, pilots. What we're adding here beyond the hypothesis is strong purchase intent. So the customer is agreeing in advance that if the pilot works out, they'll be purchasing. Okay, those are the three: a trial, which is the foundation, POC, which adds a hypothesis, and a pilot that adds intent to purchase. Let's start getting into the top issues you should focus on to make sure your trials, POCs, and pilots deliver results. First up, clear success criteria. Frequently, we hear founders pitch us and start talking about how they're doing POCs and pilots with several brand name companies. Everyone's excited. But we'll come right back with, great, what are the success criteria? So the POC or pilot is successful if what happens? Oh, and the potential customer agreed to that? This is usually followed up with a very muddled answer. So rule number one of POCs and pilots: have a short list of clearly defined and mutually agreed upon success criteria before starting. And let's refine that further. Make those success criteria quantitative, not qualitative. So not a qualitative like, we want to get patients out of the hospital faster, but a quantitative statement like, we want to decrease the time patients are in the hospital by 20%. Not we want to improve our incident response to a malware incident, but instead, we want to decrease our malware incident response time by 50%. I mentioned having a short list of criteria. Some people use the term love metric. What's a love metric? This essentially means what's the one metric you would really love to see impacted. The point is, don't have too many success criteria. Focus on the ones that make the most difference to your potential customer. Last point is to be clear on the time frame to meet the success criteria. Is the POC or pilot running for a month, 3 months, or how long? Make sure the time frame is defined. So around success criteria, mutually agreed upon, quantitative, not qualitative. Define your love metric and clear time frame. Okay, next. Let's talk about one of the best ways to reduce friction when trying to execute successful trials, POCs, and pilots. Do not integrate. What do I mean? Oftentimes a customer will ask that you integrate your product or system with theirs. Avoid that if at all possible. Why? We've seen time and again that integration during a POC or pilot is the wood chipper of startups. Why? Well, now IT needs to get involved. Oh wait, they're busy. That adds a delay. Oh, and IT now needs a security audit. Another delay. And the list of delays goes on and on as your startup's runway diminishes. So what do? Look carefully at your success criteria and ask, how can you prove out what you need to without integrating? Can data be exported from the other system and imported into yours to prove things out? Or maybe your system delivers results, but does not push them back into the customer's main systems via an integration. So one huge way to reduce friction and get faster results: don't integrate if possible. Now, let's talk about charging versus not charging in these early stages. Look, if you're doing a trial and the user is self-service, you probably shouldn't charge. But if you start raising the bar to a POC or pilot, which means you'll be expending resources, give charging strong consideration. One of the biggest reasons? You can quickly weed out how serious the potential customer is. As an example, if you're selling an enterprise solution that costs $10,000 per month, and the user is not willing to pay several $1,000s to run a POC or pilot, tread carefully. Their willingness to pay, or WTP, shows their level of seriousness. It's a form of sales qualification. Want to throw in a sweetener? Tell them if they eventually buy, you'll credit some or all of the charges to the full purchase price. Your call, of course, on offering that. And since we're talking about money, let's go a step further. Another big mistake we see startups make is not qualifying potential customers before starting pilots. Now, I already mentioned a customer's WTP or willingness to pay for a POC or pilot. This just makes sure that they're serious. But you also need to make sure customers have an accurate view of the cost of your production solution post POC or pilot. Remember, what's the point? An eventual purchase. I'm not saying you need to get a final negotiated contract and pricing before starting a POC or pilot, but you want to make sure customers have visibility into your production use pricing and agree that it's within budget. Otherwise, you risk wasting time and effort with a customer that really can't afford your solution. I've seen several cutting-edge startups go a step further and ask potential customers to sign a provisional purchase order. It's basically a letter of intent or LOI that states if the pilot is successful, they expect to purchase within a stated price range and time period. The provisional purchase order typically does not have sharp teeth, but does make sure your potential customer has their organization's commitment and is not wasting your time. Okay, that's it. Those are 5 ways to make sure your trials, POCs, and pilots drive better outcomes. First, make sure you're using the right terms: trial, POC, or pilot. Second, make sure to have clearly defined success criteria that everyone agrees to and try to make them quantitative, not qualitative. Third, try to eliminate integrations unless that's part of your core value prop and you absolutely can't demonstrate success without it. Fourth, think about charging for pilots to qualify potential customers. Finally, before you start a pilot, make sure production pricing has been discussed and think about getting provisional purchase orders. That's it. That's your Dreamit Dose. Please leave your questions in the comments section. If you found this video valuable, please like and subscribe. We have a lot more coming. To see all of our doses, go to dreamit.com/dose. See you next time. What's a love metric? I screwed up. I screwed up a lot of things. And the list of delays goes on, and make sure you're using the right terms. Trial it. Those are 5 ways to make sure your trials, pilot,